We'll have none of that.
Greetings, heathens and heretics, and welcome to Midweek Club for a change. How are we, gentlemen?
Well, it's the middle of the week, isn't it? So, go figure. Never an easy time to answer that question. You're still kind of clinging to the weekend. It's a bit like taking the stabilizers off. You're kind of not quite sure, like, oh, can I do this? Can I do this? I know, and it's just toddle and run towards next weekend.
Yeah, it's a bit
Um,
like that, isn't it? But it's
yeah,
yeah,
but generally okay. No major
I'm drinking
complaints.
shit hipster fucking lager. Was it hipster lager? It's Camden House hipster lager. Would you call it that?
I
There are
don't.
definitely
I
better
think
beers available.
yeah, it's not a bad
I like,
lager.
I mean, I drink it, so probably.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway, what are we doing here in the middle of the week? So festival season is kind of coming to an end a little bit. Certainly in the UK, I'm sure there's some bits and pieces left to go.
Yeah.
Bloodstock's done, Arctangent's done. Got Reading and Leeds to come, but no one gives a flying fuck about that. So,
Could we just acknowledge that? I mean, what the fuck happened to Reading Festival?
oh no, well, download happened, didn't it?
Right.
I
Yeah.
suppose
Fair point.
that
Fair
changed
point.
everything for them, really. Yeah, look, it is.
It's just, I think, indie as a thing just fizzled out. I mean, you had all the
Yeah,
landfill indie stuff of the noughties, which kind of kept that flag
Yeah.
sort of raised, didn't it?
Yeah.
But at some point, and I think it's probably when metal kind of just
Yeah.
nestled to itself a bit throughout the tens, and indie just kind of, again, it moved away from the guitars and all. It ignored all the sort of electronic indie stuff that was sort of
Yeah,
good for a
but
bit.
I wonder if now's
Yeah,
the time for a bit of a resurgence because the ISIS tour currently just going round round the island, just raking it in and just sort of getting everyone all excited about it again.
and taking a load of those indie bands with them as well. You got
Yeah,
Cast and Richard Ashcroft and Cooler Shaker, all these I don't know, not Cooler Shaker, but all
yeah,
those sorts of that might be one step too far. But
yeah.
all those bands from
Come
that
on, you'll
era.
be talking about top loader next.
Whoa, whoa,
Fucking
whoa,
hell.
whoa, whoa,
no,
whoa,
no,
whoa,
no,
whoa,
no,
We
no.
have to
Come on,
draw a
come on.
line
whoa.
somewhere.
That's the landfill indie stage. We don't need to equate
Wash your
Britpop with
mouth out with
indie.
co-op cider.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll take 1,000 menswears before I take Top Loader.
That's
Oh
a
God,
quote.
now
And having
now
said that, I like that first menswear album. So hang on. Yeah,
I
no,
feel like
there
I'm
was
well
only
out.
one Tennessee at that time. So yeah.
I'm in uncharted territory now.
Right. Oh,
I
right.
don't,
Oh,
I don't know.
we
Steer it
go.
back. Steer
Yeah,
it back.
we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole here. Anyway, so going back to festivals. So obviously, a lot of the lineups for next year are starting to get announced. Certainly, the headliners and a smattering of bands across the bill, and we'll talk about the key ones. But
Mm.
I suppose the question it poses is what is now happening to headliners. So we did touch on this. Fuck me, probably 2.5 years ago.
It's one of those things that comes up. It's almost, it's the elephant in the room, isn't it? That I
Hmm.
think a lot of people that are into festivals and spend their summers going to the festivals have this conversation, don't they? It's like, to the point where it's almost a bit of a cliche and it's a bit of a trite thing to bring up. It's like who is the next wave of headlining bands?
Yeah, yeah. But it's not just at the very highest level either. We're now seeing it at the bloodstock level, that kind of 20,000 cap level, where you're seeing a repetition of headline bands, but also certainly with bloodstock for next year. I mean, the obvious one is Slaughter to Prevail. We'll have our opinions on them, I'm sure. But
Yeah, it's a strange.
that none of us saw that coming,
No,
did we? And
no,
it's not just bloodstock either. They're headlining festivals all over Europe. So
yeah.
the discussion point really is where is it going? What's the
Hmm.
what is the future of these festivals?
Let me start with a question for you all, just for a bit of fun. What do you remember the first festival you went to and who headlined?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
yes,
Was it the same one for you guys?
no,
No.
No.
Well, not the same year. My
Where
first, my first was Reading 1997. I only went to the Sunday, so
as
right.
that
many
was
people did.
yeah, but that was a big one because the headliner was Metallica on
Oh,
the load to, well, just before Reload came out.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
Metallica, and under them was Marilyn Manson, Terrorvision,
Dinosaur
Dog Eat
Jr.,
Dog,
Doggy
Hmm.
Dog, yeah,
Three Colors Red, Feeder,
Radish.
Descendants,
Radish.
Dinosaur Jr. Yeah, they opened as well. And actually, it's a funny story about Radish. For anyone that remembers them, is they came on. and the bassist, who was about 20 years older than the rest of the band.
Yes. No, it was two
Yeah.
guys, wasn't it? I was talking about this at Bloodstock. Who I can't. It must have been Uncle Mike, and I was saying there was this band, and it was like a kid and a man, and
Yeah,
it was
yeah, two
Radish.
two
I
lads,
couldn't think of the
two
name.
teenagers. Yeah, two teenagers and a bloke who was about 20 years older than the rest on bass.
Right.
And he came out wearing a t-shirt that said Stroppy. And I thought that's an odd one because my mate, well, I say my mate, my classmate anyway, two of them, they had a band called Stroppy as well. I was like, that's probably a bad coincidence. Anyway, it turns out for some reason they'd crossed paths earlier that summer and given him a t-shirt. So there you go.
Oh man, he was
Um,
properly flying the flag.
Yeah, basically. But anyway, that's a bit of a Padre friendly tangent. But yeah, either way, that was Reading 97 Sunday. And the reason that was a big deal is because there was no Monsters of Rock that year. That was the
Yeah.
first
Right.
year that
Yeah.
Monsters of Rock had stopped. Obviously, they've had the odd year off previously.
Yeah.
Um, but 96 was the last proper Monsters of Rock at Donington. And there was a sort of big what's going to happen next. And I think it's because Reading kind of took that over for that year. And of course, 98, Ozfest started and Reading continued their sort of rock days, which I think is where Tregenza kind of started
No,
the year with.
my first festival was V97.
Oh, fuck, oh,
The
Christ.
festival.
Yeah.
That's not a thing anymore, is it? I mean,
No,
that's a
and
thing by Wolf.
ironically, I mean, I was living in Cornwall back then. Ironically, it was here in Highlands Park, which I can see from my fucking house.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it was Blur on the first night, and it was Prodigy on the second night, which was what we were there for. Prodigy,
Right.
Foo Fighters, Stereophonics opened the second stage that day. It was
Yeah.
there was a lot of toss, but it was all about the Prodigy more than anything.
Yeah.
Who I got to
Yeah.
admit were
In that park, sort of just around the corner from you.
no, not there. It's a bit further away. It's a massive place, Highlands, but it's where the Radio 2
Oh,
weekend
right,
thing
okay.
is.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, it was there for donkey's years. But my sister lived in Hornchurch, so we ended up here when Prodigy were fucking incredible. That was the Fat of the Land tour.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, they would have been sort of, it's almost like peak Prodigy, really, in terms of
yeah,
popularity.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It
Yeah.
was nuts, absolutely fucking nuts. So that's yeah. So we're almost getting to 30 years, aren't we, of going to these festivals? So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I mean, mine was Monsters of Rock 94. So it's Aerosmith.
yeah.
Were headlining. The classic. What I loved about Monsters of Rock back in the day was it was one day, just like it was like one special day. We used to get the coach up from London, and I mean, fucking hell, who else played that day? Pantera, Sepultura. I mean, it
It
was
was a really
full on.
eclectic year, wasn't it? 94. It was a really some really
Extreme were just
extreme
under
played.
they
Yeah,
were on there, just under Aerosmith. That was an interesting one.
Was it the Almighty? Did they play 94?
Quite possibly. Around that time, 90, 95, 94, they sort of all blend into one. I think it was when they still had just one stage, but I might
yeah. Well, it would have been. Yeah,
no, because I'm sure the Wild Hearts played that year as well on opposite on the other stage. I can't fucking remember, but Aerosmith were the headliners. But I just thought it might be worth just tapping into those just to think about why that, who those headliners were and why that was exciting, why that just felt like a massive event. Because to me, it did.
yeah.
Like the idea of seeing Aerosmith, this was a band that had history, they had, like worldwide success. It just felt really special to have them there on that day and kind of be breathing the same air as legends, really. That's how it felt as a 16-year-old me.
Well, yeah. I mean, for me, it was the Prodigy. I was obsessed with the Prodigy in the 90s, like fucking obsessed with them. So that's what it was all about for me. I had to see the Prodigy, So that's what it was all about. The rest of it was kind of forgetful. I mean, Foo Fighters were great. That was Color and the Shape. So it's before they went
Right.
a little bit dad rock and boring.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, other than that, a lot of it was forgettable. But then it was about the headliners, whereas just bringing it all the way forward, just been
yeah.
to Alcatraz, and we barely watched the headliners. Watched bits of all three headliner sets, just little
Mm,
bits.
mm.
It was all about the rest of it. So is it that important anymore?
This is the question. Where are we going? Because also, we've had the announcements for certainly for Bloodstock and Alcatraz, the two festivals that we went to this
Yeah.
summer, they incorporated the announcements of next year's headliners into that. How do we feel about that? I
I
mean,
mean,
well,
I mean, we've all got our opinions on the whole. Slaughter to Prevail thing. I mean, for me, without going into the sort of, all the political stuff around them, there's
Yeah.
no point. There's no point in us talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
mean,
valid, but there's not much point in
I
dwelling
know,
on
I
it.
agree. I sort of had to call my jets a little bit on that because I think when it was announced, I found myself having a very knee-jerk reaction to it.
Yeah,
I found
yeah,
myself kind of thinking, "What? Yeah, this is an outrage," you know, you know. And but I had to step back from that to say, look, I actually don't know much about that at all, right? I've got bits and pieces, and fine, like I haven't kind of dug into it. Um, so to give them the benefit of the doubt, actually, I sat and listened to them. I thought, right, I'm going to just stick the new album on and play it and just see how it lands. And I still find it a really interesting and odd choice for a headliner
mm,
because, the album to me sounded quite generic. Like I'm not hearing kind of, huge anthems and big hits and the things that you might associate with a headlining band. To my ears, it sounded competent, but pretty much in line with most other sort of deathcore stuff
yeah,
I've heard. And I struggle to see what sets them apart from a lot of other bands. And the other thing is, I just thought it's a really like overtly aggressive style to finish a festival on, which to my mind should be a celebration. And um, it's a bit like when you're making a mixtape, you kind of pace it so it goes through certain moods. And if my festival was my mixtape, I'd want the headliners to be something that just draws everyone in and celebrates the occasion. And listening to Slaughter to Prevail, I think, God, it's a really fucking like kind of aggressive, kind of grab you by the throat and like pummel you for a headliner. Maybe anywhere else on the bill, I probably wouldn't feel that as much as I do thinking about Slaughter to Prevail occupying that space. But you know, that was my
yeah, I
initial.
mean, yeah. Look, I'd pretty much echo exactly what Bean says. I mean, I'll make a point that said I've done a little bit more reading on the band and the front man, and yeah, maybe there's been a bit sort of stuff that's not quite accurate and the usual kind of media rumors, etc., etc. There's some stuff there that's obviously maybe needs looking at, and there's some stuff which I think, you know what, that's probably not a problem. And I think I've come out of it willing to give him the benefit of the doubt overall,
Mm,
from what I can tell. And bear in mind, obviously, he's from Russia. It's an extremely socially conservative country that's going to have an influence on you,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
whether you like
damn
it
right.
or not. So, you've got to apply that nuance to your thinking. So I'm not gonna get all outraged at him. But I think he is relevant. He's clearly a personality. He's clearly a character, and maybe he's seen as a bit of a sort of a modern bad boy rock god in different respects.
Mm,
Um, and
that's not a
I
bad shout.
think that's a big factor, to be honest, because I think just like you, I've given their music a go, and it's competent and it's solid. It's very fucking heavy.
mm,
Um, and I can, and you get a pit going, you get all that stuff. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, again, it's from a headliner point of view, you want a degree of accessibility, I think, and you want songs that are made, certainly memorable and big and have widespread appeal. It's not just about appealing to the people who want to get brutal in the pit. You want
mm.
your older farts, you want your kids, you want everyone watching where
You
possible.
want a bit,
Well, it
Yeah,
is.
you know.
I mean, by
there's
definition,
not.
well, not by definition, but it's the moment in the day where everybody comes together, isn't it?
Absolutely. And for whatever their strengths are, people consider them their strengths to be, they don't strike me as that kind of band, even if they put on a big show.
Mm,
So yeah, I mean, look, there were some boos when they were announced. There were some cheers, around me, but the general sound was the sound of confusion.
yeah, yeah.
That makes the most sense. I mean, they're also headlining Alcatraz, like we said, and I think they've appeared. Is it Summer Breeze? I think, and a couple of others. But it's they're just a small element of it, to be fair, because again, going back to Bloodstock, you've also got Lamb of God who headlined what three
Well,
years
this
ago.
is it. Yeah, I
Three
was
years
going to
ago,
say it's like if
four.
you take in the other head, so Lamb of God, they headlined. I think it was 2 years ago. It really wasn't.
It was
2020, 22.
2022.
Right.
Yeah, so
2020.
it'll be a 4 year gap,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
and then a 5 year gap for Priest.
For Judas Priest, and to me, so it begs the question: is the pool really that small that we're seeing that repetition come around as quickly as we have?
Yeah, I think it is, and if you take in some of the European festivals as well, like Tolminator, which is a growing festival in Estonia,
Right.
In Flames and Heaven Shall Burn headlining that, and from what I can see, it's sort of a similar
That's
kind of side, but then different country, different
yeah,
profiles.
yeah. In
Hmm.
They
Flames
they
can
may be
headline
more
over
popular
there.
there, you know.
They can't.
Alcatraz, for instance, is Powerwolf, Savatage, and Slaughter to Prevail. Well, that's what the poster certainly suggests.
Right.
So, but Powerwolf might be a sub headliner in the UK, but in mainland Europe, they will definitely be a headliner,
Hmm.
because it's a different market.
Mm.
The problem is metal in Britain has this awkward situation where the tastes are different, and we've explained this. Why so many bands don't come
Yeah.
over because there's just no fan base. We're always talking about Enforcer just not coming over and doing a proper tour because there is no fan base, unfortunately. I mean, Christ, even Angus McSix doesn't bloody tour over here.
Yeah.
Um, but that I think limits the pool from a British festival point of view. So
Yeah.
we might have a different conversation if we were in Europe. Um, and when you add Brexit and the challenges that brings, which I'm sorry to say it still does,
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Right.
you've got that in the mix, which kind of limits things even more.
But
Yeah.
it's this point of the pool of headliners, I think, is the most valid one because what, how does, what actually makes a headline? I mean, let's look at the festivals this year. Let's look at Bloodstock, for instance. If you took, I mean, even download, but if you took the likes of Machine Head, right, who have a full on bombastic,
Mm.
pyro
Mm.
display and all that kind of thing, which would obviously helps a headline performance, doesn't it? Because it gives you that spectacle,
Oh,
which
of course.
we all love a bit of that.
Yeah.
But if you stripped all of that away and it was just Machine Head, would that have been a proper festival headlining set? I mean, it might be, but that's just asking the
I,
question.
I
Yeah.
would I would say yes. I think for where they are now and certainly a Bloodstock Festival headliner.
Yeah, I mean, I think to ask the question, what makes a headliner? For me, it's sort of consistency. I think we're looking at bands that have had a consistent appeal across an amount of time.
Yeah,
However long you want to, maybe like a decade. Kind of at least a decade of like solid, um, successful material. Songs that a lot of people relate to, a lot of people connect with. And I think a band like Machine Head have achieved that, broadly speaking. Um, but it's interesting because I think the heavy music in general, and perhaps this is true of all music, I'm sure it's true of all music. There's so much out there. There's so much variety.
mm,
We've talked about this idea of almost saturation of the market, which is a very different time to say 30 years ago when you had bands that were kind of championed as like these are the big bands, like this is what's on offer, bands like Kiss and AC/DC and Iron Maiden and these huge bands that they were top of the tier because we were told they were top of the tier, that's how they were presented to us. But everything's just so scattered now. Do we have bands that unite people in the same way that like AC/DC do, or even Machine Head or Metallica, or have we seen the back of that day where there are bands that just everybody universally, the crossover is so broad that a lot of people are going to dig them.
I think we're seeing the beginning of the end of it, and you're going to lose that when we lose the big acts, like you said, your Maidens, your AC/DCs. That may not be such the case at the next level down at your 20,000 cap festivals, but you look at Download, for instance. I mean, Sleep Token headlining this year, that
Mm,
was planned best part of 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So someone kind of, right, this band are gonna be that big. So we can plan them for 2025 as a
Mm.
100 cap festival headliner. But again, the same question goes with them. With a band like Sleep Token, our opinions aside, if you stripped away all that production that they had at Download and they performed like Faith No More, for instance, just in front of a red curtain,
Yeah.
would that carry in the same way? Like Queens of Stone Age suffered from it the year before.
Mm.
I only
Mm.
watched it on TV, but it looked dull as fuck because they haven't really got the songs to carry it. Whereas if you chucked Maiden, AC/DC, Metallica up there with no production,
Yeah.
they've got the material to carry it.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference for me. There's a smaller pool of bands that have got they've got the X factor, they've got everything. They don't
Mm.
have to have all the production. They've got the full fucking works. And that's what's shrinking, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so the question is like, do we like, is it just that festivals change now, and it's like the headliner is just almost like a little bit extra than the rest of the bill, which is like,
Yeah.
a program of just good entertainment, and then someone that's like, I don't know, flavor of the month, or like a Sleep Token, it's like
Yeah.
there's no legacy there, but it's like they're the big hit right now, so we're going to put them at the top of the tree because they're popular. So rather than it being a celebration of a legacy, which I think is what I think about when I think about a festival
Yeah. I do
headlining
too.
band.
Yeah.
It's a celebration of a legacy. Um, Now it's about, okay, who's the most popular band at the moment that everyone's excited by, and they might not be next year. Their fall from grace could be pretty rapid,
Mm.
but we'll stick them up there because everyone's excited by them. Maybe that's just the way it's going to go now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if something like Download still exists in 10 years' time in its current form,
Mm,
because there's going to be no Maiden, to say, no Priest, probably no Metallica.
Nah.
mm,
So you can think of all of those bands, that were big in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. They're not going to be around. So yeah, it is which bands can command an 80k fan base, and
yeah.
I don't think a lot of the bands who are around now can do that, and probably less so in a few years' time, because, like you say, it's scattered and they haven't had the time. I mean, if we think of the Bloodstock headliners this year, I don't, Trivium and Machine Head have been around for 20 and 30 years respectively, but
Mm,
they're not. They probably couldn't do a bigger stage. I think Gojira can. I said Gojira could
Yeah.
could be Download headliners. Their
Yeah.
show was impressive. They've
yeah.
got they've got something unique that I think other bands don't. But again, in 10 years' time, they're going to be in their late 50s. So who knows if they're still going to be doing it?
I
Um,
can, I can see them going jazz and just kind of,
Jazz Club.
jazz club.
Jazz Odyssey.
I,
Yeah.
I, I reckon I reckon they'll go down the composing route, the soundtracks and scores.
Yeah, well,
Right.
you've got that
Mm,
in their music,
mm,
and
mm.
I'm not a huge Gojira fan, but I do
Yeah.
I see what is so special about them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think. Yeah, I think Download will struggle as the years go by. I don't think Bloodstock will, or festivals of that size, because I think there's
No.
always going to be bands they can find somewhere,
Yeah.
Mm,
even if it's just a case of, you know what, we're struggling for a 20k headliner band. Let's give this lot a chance, which
right.
seems to be the case with Slaughter to Prevail. And I think there's
Mm,
other stuff going on, definitely trying to make fetch happen, but it's doable. Download, it's not. And because Download is fundamentally a niche festival for metal, punk, hard rock, and all. It's not Glastonbury. Glastonbury is a different thing entirely. It's always going to have people who want to go because it's Glastonbury,
mm,
regardless of the bands,
mm.
regardless of the artists.
Well, I think last year's download kind of proves that. I mean, I know they
Yeah.
billed it as sold out the day before the festival happened, but when you look at all the
Mm.
videos and like, drone footage and stuff like that, there's no way that festival sold out last year. But it's
No.
felt like a bit of an experimental, punt with the headliners.
Yeah.
Whereas this year, Green Day, gonna sell a bag load of tickets. Fucking Sleep Token are obviously the hype band at the moment, so they're
Mm,
gonna sell a bag load of tickets. It was a bit more of a safer bet.
mm.
Whereas I think for a festival the size of Bloodstock, like you say, there is probably more to choose from, and you can probably get away with having a bit of a punt, which I believe
Yeah.
Slaughter to Prevail are.
Yeah. And I think it begs the question, and it sort of goes back to your point about Parkway Drive. It's like, so are we now looking at a pool of bands that, rather than being these legacy bands, it's like bands that are actually saying, hang on, like we've invested in our act and we've got a
Yeah,
shit hot show that, we can come to your festival and put on a spectacle. So regardless of like, how many albums they've sold or whatever, they're going to put their money where their mouth is, and they're just literally going to explode, the stage. And they're the bands that are getting booked. It's more about who's promising like a cracking night out, rather than, what band do we need to look back and celebrate. It's more about
which
who's
is
bringing it.
which is valid, and I think
Yeah.
the Parkway Drive point. So for anybody who doesn't know, there's a great documentary about Parkway Drive. I think it's on Amazon Prime. It's really worth watching. A band that are essentially have always been self-managed. They're very proper work hard band, the kind of thing that we all love as metal fans.
Mm,
And at some point, probably 6, 7 years ago, it might be a little bit longer than that, they made that decision to just go big. We're going to have a big fucking production. Their style of music started to shift to a much more arena friendly sort of style from being, metalcore in the early days. And they took a punt and it worked. Their stage show is ridiculous.
They
right.
they they went they went Black Album, didn't they? Really?
Yeah, they did, but they've got the
Right.
material to back that up as well. So I mean, they could be a punt for a download headliner next
Oh
year. I
yeah,
think,
yeah. I
they,
was just
they'll hit that, same as the likes of Ghost.
Yeah.
But these bands are very few and far between that have got it all.
Mm, mm.
Partway Drive headlined Bloodstock. What was it? 2019? Was it?
I don't know.
I think it was 2019. So that was their
yeah,
first
Right.
sort of UK
yeah.
Okay.
headline festival. So the logical option now is for them to go to download. So, but I think what the way they've done it right, and there's certainly there seems to be a widespread respect for Parkway Drive and what they do, and I like them. I think they're fucking great. They do get some knocks, but
They got songs.
they've got songs, man. They've got fucking songs,
Right.
and they seem likable. The show works with the songs as well. Like the production fits with everything. Everything is a
Yeah.
very well-oiled machine now.
Yeah,
I
and I just think that's it. We're seeing it's more performance now than legacy. I think
Yeah,
Malevolence are another example. I
yeah,
thought about them a lot as you were describing sort of Parkway Drive's Ascent. It's like that's a band that are kind of self-managed, and they clearly are looking upwards,
yeah,
and they're on their way, and their performance matches that ambition.
yeah.
You see it.
But it could have gone massively wrong. You know what I mean? It could have spent all
Right.
that money and it would
Yeah.
have gone tits up. So
Yeah, and
here's
actually,
the
we did
question.
get a Malevolence headline moment because Trivium, of course, had the guitar. Malevolence guitarist came on to guest
yeah,
with them, so we're already seeing them dipping their toes into the waters of the main stage or the
Here's a
headlining
question.
stage. Yeah,
Can you hear me?
no,
no, I can't
yes,
see
we
you. You're
can.
invisible.
Fuck you.
You were
My,
saying,
Hmm.
my question's being funny. So no, it's just a question that occurred to me yesterday. It's kind of in preparation for this, just because of the lifespans of some of these bands. Um, and it's kind of relevant, but it just made me think. It's at some point it's affected where we are today. But apart from Ghost, can you think of any metal bands who have done well over the last 10 years, shall we say, who released their debut album in the first 5 or so years of the tens? Because we talk about the tens being a bit of an off period for metal and not particularly
Hmm.
busy, and it's half the reason I sort of dropped off and didn't keep up with things. But
Hmm.
when things are slow, when things aren't happening, you lose that time for, well, the scene to be invested in something in the long term. So obviously you got your 90s and your noughties bands who are still knocking about and headlining your Bloodstocks, etc., or your downloads. And Ghost, they've reached that particular stage. I mean, Partway Drive, again, they're a noughties band to begin
yep,
with, aren't they?
yep,
But yeah, if you think,
Hmm.
I'm struggling to think of any band who released a debut album in the early tens who have risen to that particular level outside of Ghost. And that's a big factor. That's why you kind of want you want your scene to keep going at a certain level because if it drops off and things
Yeah.
aren't as busy, you end up in that position where, oh shit, we've kind of got a bit of a,
I think
you know,
the only other example I can think of, and I'll probably get chastised for saying it, but it's probably baby metal. But I don't even know if that counts. But
I think that no, I think that's a good shout. I think that is the early tens. I think they started
Capture
yeah,
the moment more than anything, I think. Baby
yeah,
metal.
they're
yeah.
still yeah, but they're still knocking about. They're still doing
Yeah.
stuff with
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And
the
yeah,
other
I mean,
hand.
yeah. I mean, look, let's throw them in there because just for an example of, are we going to see a baby metal headline slot at Bloodstock?
They're still niche though. That's the thing about them, aren't
Yeah.
they? I mean, I saw them in 2016 at Download, and they were on the I think they were on the second stage,
Right.
sort of in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I think so. It was quite. I mean, they're playing arenas now, aren't they?
Yeah, I'd say so. But to your point, it's interesting. I really had to cast my mind around just then. You posed the question. I'm like, I couldn't think of anyone, and
I can't.
I mean, that just popped into my head as an example. But it's not like there's an abundance of bands you go, oh, and there's them, and there's them, and there's them.
Hmm.
But
But they could headline an appropriate festival because they're that kind of band. They can put on that kind of show. They've got
yeah.
something a
Yeah,
bit different, and so there's another answer. But yeah, it's I was really struggling, and I thought that kind of that's kind of relevant to the conversation.
yeah.
I mean, Ghost have evolved massively when you think about the first album, which is, this sort of occult doom, essentially.
Mm,
And as time's gone on, it was, once you start getting into when Square Hammer hits and these sorts of songs, and they're going for that big 80s, the big choruses and all of that is what has really changed it for Ghost. They now have a really strong body of material that they could
mm,
choose from. They could do different set lists each night. They could do all sorts of different things. There's a presence,
mm.
amongst them, and they are the standout band of the current crop.
Yeah,
Again, I would imagine Download headliners next year. I would have thought certainly a good shout.
I think so.
Are they maybe just missing it slightly? I don't
Okay.
know.
Well, it's interesting because yeah, I
Headline's not
answer. It's not an emphatic kind of like, oh, definitely. But
Yeah,
I think they could do it. But like you said, they just sort of sit under that threshold, don't they?
yeah.
no, they headlined it a couple of years ago, didn't they?
They headlined the second stage, didn't they? They
Oh,
haven't
I
done
thought
a
it was
full.
the main
I'm
stage.
not.
They
Yeah.
haven't done a full headline, full download headline yet.
Oh, I thought they did.
No, they
Oh,
had
okay.
to a 2024. They were on they headlined the second stage, didn't they? Which is for all intents and
Wait,
purposes.
2023. What was the 20th anniversary year? That was 2023, wasn't it? Or
So
22?
let's have a
What
look.
year that Metallica did two nights? Because
That was
I
that was
swear Ghost.
2023.
Yeah, I could have sworn Ghost did the main stage on the same one, but if I'm wrong, then
No, no, Ghost headlined the second stage in 2023, the Opus stage.
right, okay.
But they at that point though, they're headlining a stage, and across the 4 days, the other three headliners were Placebo, Evanescence, and fucking Five Finger Cunt Punch. So
So who
it's
headlined the main stage? Obviously, Metallica did two nights.
Metallica, Bring the Horizon, Metallica, Slipknot.
Right.
Okay.
So again, Bring Me the Horizon probably would have been seen as an experimental headliner and
Yeah.
fucking terrible, but
Yeah. Well, I'm not. I've not. We've not seen them since, have we? Sort of
no,
anywhere really. So you know.
no,
Well,
no.
they've kept going. I mean, they evolved. I mean, their fan base stretches like all the way from the old emos through to metal. So they're
Yeah.
doing something right.
Yeah, I mean they're a weird one, Bring Me the Horizon, because I would actually see them more headlining Reading these days than I would Download. They've
Yeah.
got that weird sort of they crossed over into some. I don't even. If you played me a song, I wouldn't know it was Bring Me the Horizon. I've heard it and it's just gone.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
Yeah.
mean, ironically, that's Ollie Sykes, their singer, was the inspiration for Alex Terrible.
Well, that
That was
says
his
it
idol
all.
when he was younger. So
That fucking says it all, doesn't it? Jesus Christ. But I suppose the other way of looking at it is we might be saying there's too small a pool of bands to headline these festivals, or is there just too many festivals? Is that the problem? Because from late May up to early September, it's every fucking weekend.
That's true, and certainly across. Europe, but but there's a lot of repetition as well. So it does seem like the same bands are going out and doing, um, doing kind of all the European festivals or
The
many of the
circuit,
European
isn't
festivals,
it?
the circuit,
Yeah.
So does that imply there's not enough bands, or it's just that the same bands are getting rinsed and repeated? I don't know. I'm not quite sure what
I
that
think
looks like, but
for a lot of touring bands, especially if you're coming from the US to Europe,
mm,
doing the festival circuit makes total sense because
absolutely.
you can drop in little headline shows here and there in between, and then get a decent paid at a festival, turn up, play, leave.
Yeah.
So it makes total sense. In the current climate where bands are trying everything they possibly can to make an income,
Mm,
when you've got bands the level of Exodus and Slayer that really have to work hard to make it worth their while, that's what they do, and it makes total sense. So if that's what keeps everybody going,
yeah.
that's fine. But within the UK, outside of heavy music, I think something like 50 festivals have gone tits up this year.
Bloody
Obviously,
hell.
a lot that we don't know about, and they're going to be
Yeah.
of varying sizes, but
Right. Yeah.
it's happening all the time because the market is
Mm,
getting saturated, especially if you are into a more mainstream type of music,
mm,
because there's just not enough people to go around. And you've obviously got the cost element as well of 200 quid for a weekend ticket.
yeah. Which is a massive deciding factor really on
Yeah,
kind of where you pitch yourself for that summer, because
yeah.
you're not going to do them all. It's going to be a case of pick one, um, and go with that. But
I mean,
but
we're making it
do
sound quite bleak, but it's not because there's so much exciting music out there.
well there is, and I think that's the thing is like so the emphasis. I think what we're really looking at is it's not about moaning or
No,
feeling this kind of sense of bereavement that like all these these legacy bands are disappearing. It's let's think of it as like excitement. So how do the festivals evolve? Is it the case that the festivals themselves just have to offer a bit more, whether that's variety or more bands, or the emphasis just change? It just changes. It's not about the headliner anymore. For it's always been the thing, hasn't it? Like you don't buy your ticket until you found out who's headlining.
yeah,
It's like that's because it's always been such an important, central, integral part to the festival. And maybe things are shifting. Maybe we're looking at a situation that is a bit more like Glastonbury, where it's like it's just a lot of music, and you come along just to see a lot of music,
yeah,
and dip your
yeah.
toes into this and have a look at that, and the headliner becomes a bit arbitrary, other than it's going to be a band putting on a pretty big show. But I'm not saying that's a preference. I'm just saying I feel like maybe that's what we're looking at now. It's just a lot of bands.
I think it's quite exciting. I'm almost looking forward to the time when there's no Metallica, Maiden, AC/DC in that headlining festivals because it'll be like you say, it'll be really interesting to see what happens. I
Mm,
suppose you could take like the Arctangent format where every stage is within a tent. There's no
yeah,
big
yeah,
outdoor headliner, and it is more of just like a mixed, because obviously when things are indoors, outdoors, what
yeah,
it's like. First band on an outdoor festival stage can sound fucking terrible.
yeah.
Everything just gets lost in the wind. But when everything's in a marquee, that changes that dynamic, and you get a bit more of a level playing field
Yeah,
across
that's an
the day.
interesting point. I've never really thought about Arctangent in that sense. And you're right, it is set up a bit more like this a charcuterie board or a buffet where
You middle class fuck.
It
well,
didn't
come
have to
on, it
be
is
like
Arctangent. It's a little bit like that. Look, I mean that in a good way. Um, it's a great festival. It is a great festival. But but the point being, it's just you go there and you just kind of dip in and out and you
Yeah,
check. There's no. It's almost like there's an absence of hierarchy there. Um, in terms of the performance, or or less so.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, I was waiting for voice of reason to talk then.
I know. I thought he was
Again,
just going to come out of a humdinger then and just
no, yeah,
I mean, like I said, it's not a depressing thought. I mean, again, I repeat myself, but I treated Alcatraz exactly that way. I saw
right.
nearly 50 bands over the weekend, and you had bands that were playing after the headliners. I know you get that at Bloodstock, but there
Mm.
was a lot more variety with the way it was done across the four stages.
Yeah,
So that is probably the way things need to go.
yeah. So
It needs to be mixed up a little bit.
yeah, it's so the question sort of arises like, do we need headliners?
No.
Are we moving into an era where it's like the age of the headline act is less important. It's just
Or
overall as a whole,
or
does
are
the
we
festival deliver?
definitely, and I'm sorry to suggest this, but someone's gonna consider it anyway. We're going to move away from obvious headliners because you want something original, but are we going to see something sort of finished in a sort of smaller stage by tribute bands?
Whoa!
Oh,
Whoa,
hang
whoa,
on, hang
whoa,
on. There's a
whoa.
line. There's a line.
You've crossed it. If
It's
as long as you can have the
Look,
Belgian Quo band, it's
look,
fine.
I was
they
gonna look. I
sell
was about to make
they
exactly that
sell
point. It's like
tickets.
there is a time and a place.
Yeah, there is a time and a place. But I mean, we've talked about it before. The tribute band festivals up and down the UK are fucking mental. That's big business.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
You know,
they're gonna end up on the other festivals at some point. They're
I
they
going to
think
end
probably
up.
fucking will.
The
thing
bands
is,
that are good enough,
if you pitch it
people
right,
want to
it
hear their
can
songs.
work.
Yeah,
It could work. I think the bottom line has to be that a festival has to be fun, right? So,
Yeah,
and there's a thousand different ways you can inject fun into a situation, right? And if you get it right, it can work. We were talking on the Bloodstock review episode about the after parties and how you're sitting there dancing to Venga Boys and or songs of that ilk, but it works and you're having fun, and so it kind of doesn't matter that it's not what you necessarily thought you'd experience when you bought the ticket. It just kind of works, and if you can drop things like that in, I'm sure we're going to see tribute bands. I'm sure we're going to see like hologram performances of bloody Dio and whatever else. I think these are all things that are percolating, and perhaps they're going to find a way into these events. I think we're always going to have headliners, but I just think there's going to be less emphasis on it. It's going to be more about who's flavor of the year,
yeah.
who's kind of riding high on the hog that particular year, and can they bring it? Can they bring a big show? You know, we're all suckers for explosions and lasers. Um,
Freaking lasers.
exactly. Like for me, I Bloodstock this year, I watched Trivium. They're not a band. I don't know any of the material. I've got no relationship with with them as a band, but there were flames, there were explosions, there were loud noises, there was a big inflatable creature on the stage. So I was happy to watch that because it was enjoyable.
there's no way
Yeah.
to talk about Rob Flynn.
Um, I suppose. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll finish off. We'll talk about the Bloodstock lineup for next year in a bit more detail in a minute. We'll kind of round off with that. So, if I was to put it to you two now, looking at the bands that we like now that are kind of they're fucking good. They've got a couple of albums in the bag. Who are those that are? If we are looking at future headliners, who are they? Who
Oh
is gonna
man.
actually who is able to step up that we believe?
Right, yes. That's putting me in a spot, that is.
That's the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I should have prepared an answer for that, but I don't.
Yeah.
But the fact I feel quite bamboozled is probably why we're having this conversation
Yeah.
because no one like pops into to my head. I think an easy answer, a bit of a cop out, would be Ghost in the sense that I think they're ready made for this sort of thing. I think you could pretty much drop them.
we we said sometimes that from a bloodstock perspective, at some point in the next 5 years, probably Green Lung.
Yeah, I think so because they've got the material as well.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
I think
Malevolence is another band that I think we're all
yeah,
waiting for that Bloodstock headline set announcement. It feels like they're very aligned with that festival. I think
yeah.
I think there's a strong bond between the band and the festival, and I think it's a matter of time before we see them. I have to give them credit for last year. I mean, the size of the mosh pit. It's for every band this year that said we want to see the biggest circle pit of the whole festival. It's like all of it paled in comparison to
Malevolence, hold my
Malevolence.
pint.
Yeah,
You know,
so I think that's a band, I think they do need to worm their way into a few more people's heads, and obviously the big production I think is a prerequisite now, for a headline set. So it'd be interesting to see how a band like that would play
yeah.
something like that. Um,
I would punt at Orbit Culture.
right.
I think I've got
Yeah.
the
And
the
they have been announced, haven't they, for
yeah.
Bloodstock?
So they are
Uh,
playing Bloodstock next year. I mean, they're a bit more further down, but
yeah. So it'd be
as
interesting to see how they present
yeah, from an
themselves for that.
evolution point of view, I mean, there's another album out. The next album's out in what, October.
Mm,
And it's a big sound. You can liken them to the likes of Gojira in that sense that it's a
right.
big, thick,
Mm,
full-on sound. And certainly the last album, there was some songs on that you think, yeah, I can see that big stage, big production, all the
mm.
lights, everything. I think they're like I said, further down the line, but I think they are their potentials for the future.
Yeah. I'd like to
And I
see a
guarantee,
large scale blood incantation set. Imagine the
ooh,
visuals you could do like on that I mean, I don't think they have the wide appeal, but I just think if they went all in on production, that would be a hell of a show on
Could
that
be.
scale. I'd
see,
love to see it. There's a little wish list
I do want
answer.
to say with Orbit Culture, I think even once they get to Bloodstock headliners, I still wouldn't have bloody seen them. Can't White Whale at the moment. We never cross paths. So
Yeah, I mean,
So,
we saw them at Bloodstock in 2022, didn't we? So that was before the last album came out, and they're still kind of still just coming out of that kind of bedroom project stage of Orbit Culture.
mm,
There was a lot, but you could see it then, couldn't you? Even, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the Sophie stage, you could see something in them. Nicholas Carlson's he's got a Hetfield kind of way about him on stage. He
right.
seems like he's going to be the right kind of person that will command a crowd. So
Hmm.
that's why I think they're up there. Um, any others? I can't really think of
I don't
anybody
know.
that
I mean,
stands out a
the
mile.
mention of Hetfield kind of made me think of Volbeat, but
They're an odd one. I think they should be headlining festivals already, but for some reason, I mean,
yeah.
they do in Europe. They've
Mm,
headline Wackham for
it,
fuck's sake. But like,
I'll be an interesting one because I see stuff online, but I think people lump them in with all of the sort of American Midwest sort of rock metal stuff. They lump them in
yeah,
with like, I
right.
Think of Death Punch and Shine Down and all of that, which I think is unfair. I think they've
yeah, they're
got a
so
different.
much better than that.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. But
Right.
I think they seem to get lumped in with that stuff, and I think that affects them in Britain, even though they do seem to play arenas. So yeah,
No,
Mm,
that's a real shame because over the years they've got great songs. Just good song. Fuck it, hooks. Do you know what I mean?
right.
And they
Yeah.
throw in
Well,
a ballad and a cheeky cover version and things like they've got
that's why I wonder
all
if
the
they would
elements.
they if you gave them the opportunity, I think they could probably do it,
Look, UK tour in the winter is an arena tour, so
Right. Yeah.
they clearly have the
Mm,
following, but maybe like Voice says, they're just not. Don't know. Maybe it just feels like it's taking too much of a chance at a metal
mm,
festival.
mm. Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah.
But well, let's talk about the Bloodstock lineup for next year because we haven't discussed it yet. So as we said, the three headliners: Lamb of God, Slaughter to Prevail, and Judas Priest. It's good to see Bleed from Within high up on the bill. I think that'll be a good one for them because I
Hmm.
really enjoyed the last album. Some may say they're a little bit metalcore by numbers, but I think they're right. Sepultura, I think, is going to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
a big. So I'm going to assume that'll be their final, certainly their final festival for
Yeah.
their
But well,
appearances in the UK.
I think it's part of their final run around the world.
Final run.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they were so good when we saw them a couple of years ago at Bloodstock.
Yeah, they were. They flattened the place.
I have to acknowledge the fact that Eloy is no longer with them, and I think
Mm.
he was a massive contributing factor to how fucking immense that set was.
Yeah.
But you know, they've got no slouch on drums right now, so yeah, that's one of the ones I'm looking forward to. To see how that pans out.
Um, like we say, we've already mentioned Orbit Culture. Biohazard, look, they're going to be on the main stage this time. They'll go down well. Municipal
Yeah,
Waste again,
yeah.
but
I mean, I
they'll
think
always, the
interestingly, there was a lot of repetition. I think that was we mentioned the kind of the reaction in the
mm,
crowd when they made the announcements there, and yeah, there were cheers and there, but the overall sense was like, oh, hmm, okay, like, and I don't think it's because it's bands that people don't like, but a lot of them it feels like they've it's a repetition of bands that
You
played there
almost
not
expect
too
it.
long ago. It's like there's Life of Agony are on there as well. I
Mhm.
think they weren't
But they pulled out, didn't they, in 2023? So
right. I
that kind
suppose
of
right.
makes sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I wasn't sure if they'd rebooked and played at some point since then. Maybe I got that wrong, but it just felt a little bit like, if I'm honest, a lot of bands I've never heard of, and then the ones I had were like, oh, didn't they play 2 years ago or 3 years
Mm.
ago? And like even Judas Priest, who are my absolute fucking favorite, I mean, they're up there for me. But even that felt a bit like, oh, like, okay, I I was expecting something because it's the 25th anniversary as well.
I
I
think,
think
yeah,
I
we
was
all were.
expecting
Yeah.
something that was, um, I mean, I'm not quite sure. Just different, just
Yeah.
something that was a little bit more like, look, it's
A wow
extra,
moment.
a wow moment. Yeah. And look, I know like Judas Priest for me, that is a wow moment. Okay. But considering they'd headlined a few years ago, that took a little bit of the wow off of that as an announcement.
This is
I'm
number
not,
three, isn't it, for
yeah, and
Priest?
I'm not sure what I was expecting, but yeah, I did expect it's 25 years, so we're giving you, and fuck knows, like, I don't know, Metallica or something. I know that's not going to happen, but do you know what I mean? It
Where the
was
fuck's
just,
Bruce Dickinson? I've said that for a long time. Fucking Bruce headlining. I mean, but is he big enough for that crowd?
I mean,
For what Bloodstock is now?
I think do you know what I'd love to see Bruce do? I'd love to see Bruce do what Machine Head did a couple of years ago and just do a surprise set in the middle of Sophie stage
No,
set, right? Bruce Dickinson and his band solo set. I think that would go down an absolute treat.
I've still never seen his solo, so it needs to happen.
Yeah.
The Sophie headliners are worth talking about. Well, three of them are Cryptopsy.
Mm.
Even I've started to come around to Cryptopsy now. Leprous, I've tried with Leprous. I don't get it, but they're clearly
Yeah.
very, very popular. And fucking finally, Bloodstock have bitten the synth wave and got Carpenter Brut to close the festival. So
I have to
fuck
acknowledge
yeah.
Carpenter Brute, I think, got the biggest cheer
Mm.
that and like I said, I'm sat there and everyone's like, what? Who? Hmm? I've got the video on my phone and you can hear people,
That was just me.
right. Yeah, I heard a little squee. Um,
No, that was no. I mean, have you ever seen the Football Factory?
Yeah,
no, I've never
Yeah,
seen
so
it.
you know
No.
that bit where Chelsea versus Millwall gets announced.
yeah.
Yeah, that was me.
Right. But I think it wasn't just you though. I think everybody that was a genuine moment of excitement. There was a guy in front of me that almost broke down in tears when they announced Carpenter Brute. So, if you're going to be anywhere, I think that tent is going to go off
Yeah, I mean,
for
fuck
that
me.
set.
I know he's French, but he headlined Hellfest essentially. So you
Uh,
know,
Bit
yes,
against him.
it's
no,
a
yeah,
great
no, but
example of
that French festival, all of that, but it's not going French. But yeah, I think that's a fucking great booking that, and to close
yeah.
the festival as well, and that
Yeah,
will finish the festival on a high because it's
yeah.
upbeat.
That's the
And
kind
that
of thing you
right,
want at the
yeah.
end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's it. And that's an important point, which is, swings back to why I felt Slaughter to Prevail was an odd choice because it's like just ends everything on a very note. So
It's
to have something like that,
you know what? And having said that, do you think actually Carlton Brook could headline something like Bloodstock at some point?
I don't see why not. Because it's the kind of music that can have a fucking massive production, isn't it? So
yeah,
if that's
Yeah,
the way things are now, if it is all about the production just as much as anything else,
yeah,
and look, Carpenter Brute, the guy's got some absolute fucking bangers. But the best thing about his Hellfest performance a couple of years ago was, I think virtually every guest vocalist that was on the last
yeah,
album performed in that
oh
set,
wow,
so that
yeah.
made it that bit extra special.
yeah,
So it's things like that. So, but yeah, that is the standout booking
mm,
for Bloodstock next year for me. I mean, I
yeah.
won't be I won't be there, but that's the biggest one for me.
I think a really good example of how you can think outside the box and put something in there
Yeah,
that's just going to work.
yeah, yeah. It's
It
quality.
really will.
The Nevermore thing is interesting for next year. I mean, they're popping up on a few festivals, but
Hmm.
there seems to be
There's
quite
no
a lot of
singer yet,
mystery
is
around
there?
that. Huh?
There's no singer yet.
This is what I mean. And to replace Warrell Dane as a singer is one of the. I mean, again, I've never been a huge fan, but one of the most unique voices I think I've ever
Mm.
heard in metal. I've seen Nevermore live, and he was with Arch Enemy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With the Scala,
Right.
wasn't it? Yeah, and his voice is fucking it's mad. Or was. So I don't know what they're going to do. That's a really odd one.
Mm.
200 stab wounds though. That's
Oh
fucking
Yeah.
yeah,
Fair
yeah.
play.
I'll be,
yeah.
good
That's a
one.
good one. So
Yeah, yeah. Lovely, lovely to
fucking
see.
fucking this heavy saurus. Right. See. I'm not happy about that one.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're going to say.
You know
Oh
exactly. Of course,
yeah,
you know exactly
right.
what I'm
No,
going
don't
to
get me
say.
wrong. I
Yeah,
cheered because I thought, yeah, fair play to him, but we
we
have
know,
heavy
we
source
know
at
who should be
home.
taking that spot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It ain't
you have
fucking
at home.
dinosaurs. It's fucking dogs.
Hmm.
Play Dougie.
It should be fucking Slay Doggy. Just if you're going to do that, don't ship a band in from because they're from fucking South America, wherever they're from. Heavisaurus.
Yeah.
We've got one here. We've got fucking dogs, and dogs are better than dinosaurs.
We have our own furries.
Are they? We could do an episode on that. Dogs versus
Dogs versus
dinosaurs.
dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So Bloodstock, if anybody involved there happens to be listening, yeah, great and everything, but fucking Slay Doggy.
Slay Dougie, yeah. Look, there's space. They haven't announced all the bands yet. There's still time.
There is time in the kennel for that. Have it.
Yeah.
Main stage openers, 11:30 on Saturday morning. There you go, perfect.
Who let the dogs out?
Oh, oh, and all
Mm.
that. But I think it's overall, it's probably quite positive. There's still loads of festivals. There's still loads of fucking great music to go around. And
Mm.
at the end of the day, as we keep going on about, it's still the grassroots that's the most important part. Because somewhere along the lines, these bands are going to be the ones that are stepping up. So,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
I think case in point, you look at a band like Hidden Mothers,
Hmm.
who I think are gonna make a big step up in the next couple of years. Even gnarly humber bastards like Mastiff.
Yeah.
It's just anything like that. There's an opportunity for these bands to make an impact, and it's all the more important now that people are going to local shows, grassroots shows, paying that 10 quid, seeing the next big thing, because otherwise this whole industry will die a death. So
Yeah.
that's what you need to
Because
do.
it's those bands are going to be the bread and butter of these festivals. Because if the
Yep.
headliners go, that's it. It is. It's made up of this big jigsaw of just really fucking cool bands that have built their reputation and made their name in those little local venues.
Yep.
Those little clubs, after hours. That's where these bands are coming from, and then they all come together for these events, and that's what it's going to look like. More and
Yeah.
more of that. It's
Yeah.
important.
So I suppose what we need to know now is the people that are watching and listening to this is what other people's opinions are. What are we missing? Who's out there that we're as us old farts are not recognizing as potential future headliners? So
Yeah, there's bound to be someone really fucking obvious that's like people.
probably
People are going to be screaming at us right now. It's like, what about? I don't know.
Sleep Broken. Talk about tribute bands, but there you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
So let us know. Tell us where we're going wrong. Tell us what who else is out there and who we should be checking out because there's gonna be fucking loads. But yeah, yeah. Well, there you go. That's it. Thanks, gentlemen.
yeah.
Yeah, now it's all
Cheers.
about 2026, isn't it?
All it is, it's like let's see what unfolds. I am excited to see, um, like who fills in the gaps. For all the reasons we just spoke about.
By the time the next Bloodstock announcement comes around, the festival will probably be sold out anyway.
Mm,
So they're in a strong position, and that interview that we were
And
talking
this
about
is
earlier
it,
on.
it's Vicky Hungerford sort of put some comments online
Mm,
in her things is when your festival is good, when it does what it does right,
mm,
and it's right level, even if you've got, maybe a headliner here that a lot of people aren't so keen on, everything else is still so good that people are gonna
yeah,
keep going. It's gonna be like Glastonbury where people say, don't even like half a band sometimes, but I keep going because it's just a
yeah,
great
yeah,
atmosphere, metal fans, great food, etc., etc. It's affordable. It's in the Midlands, so it's easy to get to for
yeah.
in the country, and that's the key. If your festival is worth going to, you're always going to have that advantage, no matter who you put on.
Mm,
yeah, yeah. And they've built that, from where Bloodstock was in 2001 with Saxon headlining and all the power metal stuff in the early 2000s. The first one we went to was 2004.
Yeah,
The festival's come such a long way. And
uh,
again, they took a punt as well, don't forget. When they went outdoors, And
This is
there's a
true.
couple of thousand people
Yeah,
there the first year. They took a big, big punt.
yeah.
And those first headliners, Children of Bodom, which was fair enough at
Yeah,
the end, and Gamma Ray.
yeah, gamma ray, wasn't it?
Wow,
Goodness
wow.
me.
So yeah, how far that is go. You would never get gamma ray on a bloodstock bill now, not in a million
No,
years. So
no.
so there you go.
It just, I mean, we've talked about Bloodstock a lot. So just Alcatraz, why was it Alcatraz? Did they make a big deal about the headliners there? Was it, did they do the same sort of,
Didn't announce it.
right,
Didn't
right.
announce it. It was announced on social media, and then
Yeah.
on the Sunday morning, as you're walking around, there's just posters everywhere for it. That was it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Really understated.
Yeah.
So
What's the sort of media presence there like? Because obviously at Bloodstock, you've got people walking around with cameras, you've got video screens. There's a lot of social
yeah,
media presence around the festival. Is that the same at Alcatraz?
I didn't notice a great deal of it, to be honest. It was a very different, similar size,
Yeah.
but a very different approach. I mean, obviously it's different countries, the cultures are different, but
Yeah.
it's just weird. Everybody just kind of mills around in between stages,
Right. Yeah.
and you've got things there that you would expect to get in a VIP area in the UK.
Mm.
Like this big circular seating area with a fountain in the middle and sofas all the way around, and that was next to the second stage.
Yeah.
So it was just a very different way of doing things, a lot less bonkers, I suppose, a lot less lunatics running around in dinosaur suits
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
that kind of thing, but still the same sort of jovial, friendly atmosphere, just
Mm.
not as British, I suppose.
Mm.
But the headliner thing was interesting there because, like I said, we didn't really watch the headliners, and I think the band that pulled the biggest crowd was Nailbomb,
Right.
and they were on at sort of 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, kind of thing. So it almost and on the Saturday night, Extreme were the headliners, but Avatar played on the main stage after them,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is another thing that's quite common in Europe. So it's just a different way of doing things, I think.
Mm.
And
Mm.
and for me, it worked because we got to see more bands. Everything was laid out just right. It's just, yeah, it just worked. That's not to say the Bloodstock doesn't.
Mm. Mm.
It's just a different approach for a similar
Yeah.
sort of size festival, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, we'll see what happens in the future. We'll probably having the same fucking conversation in 12 months' time.
Of course we will. Of course we
Yeah,
will.
because we'll have forgotten because we're old.
Lots of ideas.
Yeah.
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 So there you go. Look, yeah. Tell us your opinions. Tell us what we're missing and how right or wrong we are. It'd be good to hear. So yeah. Until next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we will see you soon. Stay metal.